My guest today, everybody, on the Quarantcast is a lovely human being and a regular in the Cleveland comedy scene. And this is basically a way for me to kind of be on his podcast, but also to have him on mine. The lovely Jim Lalka, everybody. Jim, say hi to the folks.
Hello, everybody. The word lovely does not often get used in describing my big bald melon, so I appreciate it very much.
Well, it's very kissable. How can you not love a head like that?
I've never been more glad to be on Zoom and not in person than right now.
And you know how I am at Cleveland comedy shows. I'm a hugger. So,
me too.
And I can be to the right people a humper, which is the nice part about my being me, because I don't have a 2 next to it. So cheers. This is the Quarantcast. We have Jim Lalka with us. Like I said, I've known Jim for 3-4 years now. 5 years now.
3, yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah, it's been a while, and I always enjoy going to shows and seeing you in the crowd because one, I know that there's going to be one person drunker than I will ever be that night because you have in your defense, and I'll tell you why. You can afford Uber out of anywhere, and you can do it safely. I have to drive back to the east side of damn Cleveland.
Yes. No, I've definitely made use of Uber multiple times.
Fuck yeah!
I should start off saying I'm wearing my Martin Malloy "Friend of a Crazy Person" shirt.
Hey, Martin Malloy, show that off one more time for everybody to hear. Martin Malloy is a gentleman who sells those T-shirts and he sells stickers. Hit him up online, support him. He's a local comic here in Cleveland who has schizophrenia.
His website is veryfunnycomedy.com if you want to go to it.
There we are. That's the perfect way to do it. Support Marty and support all of us while we're in this. And please support the Quarantcast. We are a newer thing. I've got the episode with Joey Gentile came out, and I appreciate everybody having or watching it and actually, supporting the show. This is a new way I'm going to be doing this on the show. Our first episode with Sean, my friend Shauna, did very good numbers, and we'll be putting that up on the audio version of Side Angle Network, where you can get all of your lovely podcasts. Side Angle Network on Anchor, Spotify, and wherever you get your audio podcast is where you can get an audio version of this, and the video is on my YouTube. Just search Ray Hyclak, Hyclak, and you will have that. Little bit of plugs before it, Jim. Why not? Since we're getting fucked up.
Can I plug Whiskey Congress?
Yes, you can, and we're going to plug it at the end as well. So
okay.
Do that up.
Well, my podcast is Whiskey Congress. We'll do the full plug at the end.
Fuck yes. And that's actually that was the one thing about this podcast that I wanted to do with you is have you on the show. And just because your podcast is about drinking, and you said we'd say at the end, but it's Whiskey Congress has already been thrown out there. So I just thought I messaged you and was like, "Fuck it, let's drink for as long as we can." I have pizza coming, so that's a nice thing. And how you been holding up in the quarantine, man? What have you been doing?
If I'm being completely honest, it's been very up and down.
Okay.
I've made a daily routine of just driving through the Metro Park just to get the fuck out of my house. I assume language is acceptable, or
this is 100% feel free, and this will go up raw anyway with Facebook
excellent.
With everything. So you're good.
I couldn't imagine you were going to have a show that was language restrictive, but I did want to ask. Exactly. So so I've been driving through the Metro Park almost every day, and I've done a fair bit of fishing. But nice. I find that, some days I feel great and I'm getting out and doing stuff. I've got some raised bed gardens in my backyard, and I get out and do something and accomplish something, and I end up feeling pretty good. Some days I find myself, watching Scream 3 for the 43rd time. And I'm like, what the fuck am I doing with my life? I've got these things I could be doing that would add value. And instead I'm watching Nev Campbell escape again. Nothing against Nev Campbell. But so yeah, in fact, it's funny you brought up Joey Gentile. He and I talk movies all the time, and I had never seen Scream 4 until just the other day, like yesterday.
Really?
And I told Joey I would give him an update after I watched it. That movie is straight up trash. And I loved it. I loved it. Don't get me wrong. I'm watching an absolute garbage movie, but because I like the other one so much, it was like, I'm trying to think of a good way. It's like getting a pizza that's close to your hometown pizza that you loved, but it's not quite as good. I love the characters. I'm entertained, but the movie is such garbage. Oh my God.
I have so many movies like that. Like, one of my favorite bad movies that like, and I'm a weird guy when it comes to bad movies. Like, I'll watch them and then like, only because there's like 15 seconds of the movie that I really want to see. And I will sit through half an hour of just total garbage. Harley Davidson and Marlboro Man is one of those movies. It's like, I love that movie.
Mickey Rourke, Ben Johnson?
Don Johnson.
Don Johnson.
Yeah,
Ben
Mickey
Johnson.
Rourke, Don Johnson. It's got Big John Studd from the WWF in it after he left WWF. This is post WWF.
Okay, yeah.
And there's a part where where Big John Studd is saving their asses during a heist. And if you haven't seen the movie, by the way, ever, I'm telling to the people out there, if you haven't seen this movie, it's on you. There's Cody, there's fucking all kinds of shit you can see this on. But like, this movie is so bad. I watch it because it's just so bad. The fucking part I was just about to say is Big John Studd crashes his bike into a bunch of like armed security guys headed up by one of the Baldwins, by the way, not the Billy Baldwin. Yeah.
Billy Baldwin. Not one of the good Baldwins.
No, not at all. He's just below the brother that was born premature. Like, that's where he is on the Baldwin list. I like Billy Baldwin in some things, but was he bad in the spot? You could definitely tell he was trying to be Alec Baldwin in the Glengarry Glen Ross or like another dramatic movie, but all he is Billy Baldwin, and he's top. This is how bad your career's going when you're the henchman of Tom Sizemore in a movie. But when he crashes that bike, he just like pulls the fucking cap thing off of the fucking bike, and gas comes down, and he lights a old-fashioned thing and just explodes these cars that he's in. I'm like, what the fuck, man? Like, the 80s are another great movie like that. I don't know how you feel about this movie, The Running Man. I love The Running Man. It's a horrible film.
It is a horrible film. Schwarzenegger made a lot of bad ones. I mean, a lot. Running Man at least had a lot of style. It's very stylistic, right? I mean, it's futuristic game show. Richard Dawson's in it. Richard Dawson probably doesn't mean much to you, but he was the host of Family Feud when I was a kid.
Oh no, I watched on GSN. I watched Game Show Network. I was one of those kids that like just pop culture went into his head all the time. Plus, my dad watched on TV Land when I was like really little, and I know this is going to insult a lot of people, but one of our favorite things to do was go, Hogan dismissed. But it's how can you not love Richard Dawson in that movie or in that TV show playing the British officer? It was so good.
The funny thing about Richard Dawson to me is all the time you hear people say like, oh, you couldn't make that movie today. And I usually get annoyed when people say that. I'm like, you can do whatever you want. When people say, the one I'm focusing on is Tropic Thunder. People say you couldn't make that today. I'm like, it was 10 years ago. Yeah. It's a great fucking movie. But what you could not do is act like Richard Dawson did back in his Family Feud days. He kissed every girl on that show.
I know.
He Me Too'd as his routine.
And that's something like, and I'm not justifying it, but it's weird how like the old ladies on that show would immediately go in and like put their cheek in because they knew Richard was going to kiss them. And he was like, oh my God, I'm from Chicago and a British man kissed me. Like, it's hilarious.
Try doing that today, though, right? I mean, have Drew Carey on Price is Right slap a wet one on a contestant and see how long Drew Carey has a career. And dude. I hate when people say that you can't do that today, but what Richard Dawson used to do, you could not do today, nor should you.
No. But like the weird part about that is like, I would love to meet the first woman Richard Dawson kissed. and then have her go to some SJW or whatever who like makes a false claim, not a legitimate claim.
Right.
I want the camera to go on record with this false claim and be like, Richard Dawson kissed me on television and I didn't do shit. Shut your face.
Thank you for making sure it was a false claim.
Yeah, no, I'm not stupid. Like I said in my last thing, I'm kind of smart. I'm not very smart, and you've seen my act, but
I like your
I roll.
When's the last time you performed?
Oh fuck, probably the Funny Stop. The week before St. Patrick's Day, because St. Patrick's Day is when I came in to hiding, and then I would say it was a guest spot at some whoever was the week before like this all like went down at the Funny Stop was my last like actual set. I haven't done a set since then.
Do you want to talk about the time I kind of screwed you over with the Funny Stuff?
Which one? When was this?
Only one.
Yeah, when was this?
You were hosting the Funny Stop. Mm-hmm. You were hosting for Pete, and you had told me I had to keep it no F-bomb free, which I was fine with.
Yeah.
Because Pete, but then as we're up there, you said it had to be more like PG-13.
It could be PG-13.
Okay. Well, I had my set list in mind. I go up. You thought I'm projecting that your thought process was this: that Jim knows what he's doing. I've got time for a smoke break. He'll know his 5 minutes. It'll all be good. And I kind of lost my train of thought because I was trying to rearrange my set list, and I flaked out after about 2.5 minutes. And no offense, I have never seen you run so fast because you were outside smoking, I think, heard me cut short. It just came barreling in to because you were hosting the show to relieve me from the mic. And I felt bad for cutting short. And Pete actually pulled me aside later and laughed at how short my set was. Said, "You're funny though. You're welcome back anytime." So I got complimented by Pete on my first appearance there.
Yeah,
which I'm told is a badge of honor because I'm told going in. I was told he's going to shit on you. Be prepared for it.
If Pete does shit on you, like it took me a couple of years to really get, because again, my shit was terrible to begin with, and I think
everyone's was.
Dude, I've really started, like when I did my last set, which was that kind of a big deal that's on video or on YouTube right now. Check that out at Ray Hyclak. It was one of those. As soon as I started really getting decent, it was right after I had broken up with the girl that I have been dating when I first started doing stand-up. And like all of a sudden, just boom, shit was going. And Pete started to like me. It is a badge of honor. And for any future comedian in the Northeast Ohio area or anybody that wants to come to Northeast Ohio, the Funny Stop's a great place to start.
Especially, and Pete's the owner. We should put that up. Pete is the owner of the Funny Stop.
Pete is a very angry Lebanese man. His wife Nadal is a dream. I love her. His brother Tony can cook up one of the best fucking steaks I've ever fucking eaten in my life. And my dad fucking was a Texas brisket man. That's fucking how good that shit is. But like getting back to what you were saying, you didn't screw me. It was just one of those things because I've even had it, and I'll tell that story. But like I've had shows that I've hosted where guys have done like 2 minutes, a minute, and I've had to go up and like really just try and save the room. I've had one headliner kind of do that to me. I love the guy to death. He's a wonderful human being. But no, yeah, anytime a comic, like you just said, you got in your own head. It was one of those things where, it was your first time at a
bigger club,
yeah, and that people knew in the comedy scene. I mean, I've heard it from everybody. Everyone has a Pete story, no matter what.
What probably was the funniest part about it to me was right before we went up, Pete said to the whole group, like gets the whole group up there, goes, "I want 5 clean fucking minutes." Yep. I'm like, you have no sense of irony.
Well, if you knew his background,
I know a little bit. I know a little bit.
You have heard stories. But it's that place. What I love about that place for any kind of comic or anybody that wants to start out, is it's the perfect place to start for a club open mic. If you're ever free on a Wednesday, and the thing, that's a place to go where you can work out new material. If Pete has seen you enough, he won't put you in the contest. He'll put you forwards towards the front, so he knows that you'll be able to bring the room up and make everything go. But in your case, it was more funny because, like, as I realized on stage, I'm just like, and I just start, like, in my head, I'm cracking up, going, "Oh, he is dying, right?" I love that story. I'll tell you my favorite 1 minute story I ever had, and then I'll ask you a question.
All right.
But I was this is before, I think this is before your time. I don't think you had come to this. There used to be an open mic on Mondays at the 5 o'clock lounge.
Oh, I have been there.
Yeah. It was run by Ryan DePerna and
Joe
Whalen. And they would have like a weird Illuminati logo. It was awesome. I wish that room was still around. And I hope the 5 o'clock stays around, because that's a dive and a Cleveland classic. And that's someplace I love to be.
That's actually the first place I ever performed.
Really? Okay.
And I don't want to steal your story. I'll tell you my story.
Oh, no, I'll ask you. Yeah, I was about to ask you. We'll ask that more down the line for sure. But I'll never forget what I was wearing either. I was wearing a Jurassic Park T-shirt from Target, and all of a sudden, kind of like, I'll be able to describe what you had. It was this just feeling of nope. It was just this feeling of like, I'm not feeling it right now. And I was like a minute and a half. And then for the rest of the show, I ended up getting just roasted by all the other comics for only doing a minute and a half. Oh no, it was a good thing. It made me kind of want it. I could tell that they were just really fucking with me because I did a minute and a half. And my favorite one was Eric Cribley. Just goes, "Yeah, because we can all do our time." And like, he just looks right at me, and I'm like, "You fucking dick. I love you, dude." But yeah, how did you get started, like, doing stand up and everything? Because I want to know that story.
I always wanted to do stand up. I started doing stand up when I was 43 years old. So I'd always wanted to do it. In fact, a girl that was an intern for me years ago told me if I ever did stand up, she was the college girl in at the office, and "Oh, you're so funny, you should be a comedian." And I always said, telling a funny joke in a meeting versus standing up in front of a group of people and being funny are totally different things. But she told me, if you do it, I will fly up from North Carolina and see you perform. And she was gorgeous. She's gorgeous.
But did she? Is the question.
No, she did not. No, she did not. But by the time I went up, I was actually dating someone, so I couldn't have done it anyway.
That was my friend's dog in the background, by the way.
I got booked to do a show at Barrio by Bill Squire.
Yeah.
And I thought, before I do that and have friends show up, I'm going to go do a set at an open mic and tell nobody. So that and my reasoning was, if I chicken out, I just walk out of the bar, they yell a name, and no one comes up. And so, very naive to the whole open mic scene, I sit right up front. So I'm getting engaged way more than I like. I know my comedy anniversary because it's Ryan DePerna's birthday. So
really?
So Ryan is hosting a show on his birthday. He is sky high whacked on weed. Joe Whalen was also stoned out of his mind because that's what Joe does. And I asked them, like, "Hey guys, what do I need to know? Help me out a bit." They're like, "You'll be fine." So I didn't know I was supposed to do 10 minutes. I ended up doing like 3.5. And like I said, because I sat up front the entire time, I felt I was unwilling to like walk out, because I thought, these people watch me perform, I'll watch them perform. To say it didn't go well would be a fair statement, but I got a lot of, like I said, interaction from the other comics, and they were engaging me, and I was responding to their questions, and I actually got some great laughs with responses. I can't hear you, Ray. Can't hear you.
There we are, because that's how you get into it. Sorry, I had my mic muted. because I have a dog
hurts.
running around.
Yeah, right.
Ah,
But anyway, so I kind of did that under the radar. That I performed for the first time I ever was booked at Barrio and had friends and folks show up.
oh,
So
okay.
so that's how I got into it. And I just got in. I got addicted to it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
fortunately, so I had my first set was filmed by the girl I was dating at the time, and and I rewatched it like a year ago. So that was 19. I'm sorry, geez, 19. That was 2014.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I rewatched it, remembering that it went okay, and just rewatching it, I was like, oh my god, this is horrible. But
Oh,
I did the classic thing, right? I had friends and girlfriend come over, and they're going to support me no matter what. In a small room like Barrio was, I had 5 people on my side, and that gave me the confidence to try to do it again. And I've been doing it since.
and we've loved having you, my friend. Trust me, you're always a guy who I like to see at shows, whether you're on it or you're just coming to hang out. You're a dude I like talking to. I've gotten to know you over the years through all of this, and you've made improvements. That's the fun part.
Oh, definitely.
Because, and I'm burping because I'm now switched to Yingling. Everybody.
Okay.
Ah, I
Well, first of
literally
all,
I bought a 12 pack today. I went through 10 yesterday. Uh,
that's a solid day. Yeah,
oh,
Ray, I always love seeing you at shows too. And my favorite part, and I know this is so cliche, but it's cliche because it's true. My favorite part of doing those shows is hanging out with other comics afterwards.
oh yeah,
The camaraderie. It's such a good crowd.
oh, we got a barking dog again.
Don't worry
There
about
we
the barking dog. Barking dogs.
are.
Dogs are going to
This is
bark.
what happens on the Quarantcast, everybody.
Hell, it was happening during the NFL draft. So,
Well, it's still quite fun. It's lovely Lily. Oh, she coming over here now. Yes, she's cute. No, I that's one thing I miss, man. Really and truly is I miss hanging out with everybody. There is an energy and vibe, and I've even like told my therapist and stuff like that over the past couple months, or like the past month, month that we've been doing this.
right.
Feels like a couple fucking months.
Yes, it does.
Oh, dude, it's been one of those things where you miss that social aspect because there's nothing like hanging out with comedians. There is absolutely no social lubricant that can get you prepared to deal with comedians besides just going hanging out with them and being cool. I mean, that's one of the nice parts about it. And even like my first time, I felt welcome because like I was working pest control. I was a fucking bug man. I was doing I had a okay relationship at the time. Wasn't great, but it was good. Um and I just and also I had been like off and on working at the Cleveland Improv as a doorman, and I had finally like
Okay.
just gotten a wild hair up my ass while working for a pest control company here. And I emailed Squire, Bill Squire on it, at Bill Squire, by the way. Make sure to follow him in the Alan Cox Show. Go see their live streams, fuckers. They're awesome. It starts at 2 and goes till fucking 6. And it's all produced in the studio. It's so cool. I want to have that one day with this.
No,
But
I watch them almost every day.
yeah, me too. That and Anthony Cumia show. Those are my 2 shows that I watch the most.
You want to hear my Anthony Cumia story?
Oh, please! I want to hear an O&A story from somebody. I'm a big
no,
O&A fan.
It's not an O&A story. It's me and Anthony Cumia. He was gone by then.
It doesn't matter. It involves O&A in some way.
It does. He's the only person who ever blocked me on Twitter. Before we switched to Whiskey Congress, Steve and I used to do a show called Steve and Jim Fix the World While Drinking. He said something right wing. I got into it with him a little bit, and he replied something like, "Sorry it took me so long to get back to you, but you and your 24 followers really aren't that interesting to me." I came back with something a little insulting. He tried to one-up me. I eventually called him a cunt, and I've tried to follow up on that, and you have been blocked by whatever Anthony Cumia's name was. So I have been blocked by Anthony Cumia.
He's gone through, and I don't know what he's under right now, but he's gone under so many Twitter handles, and I'm a fan. I'm going to say this, and it's going to probably lose me some people. Cumia can do no wrong in my eyes. at all, because of the fact that when I was 16 years old, no, I was 17 years old. This was September 9th, 2006. I was at the Traveling Virus tour for Opie and Anthony when they were on 92.3, which is now the Fan, and XM radio that I used to get off of DirecTV. And if it wasn't for Opie and Anthony, if it wasn't for guys like Patrice O'Neal, if it wasn't for guys like Bill Burr, I saw Bill Burr 2 weeks after the fucking Philadelphia incident. You know how cool that fucking shit is? And if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have.
Actually, I've got a funny Opie and Anthony story.
Please do. Let's do it. I like it.
A positive one. So I was listening to Opie and Anthony on Sirius XM, and Mark Normand was a guest. And Mark Normand is hilarious. And like 2 weeks after that, I had performed at East End Bistro, another Bill Squire run show that you and I have probably performed there together shit 20 times. If not more. Anyway, I did my set, joined the crowd afterwards, obviously. Afterwards, we're all hanging out. And Mark Normand was at Hilarities that day. Mm-hmm. And he actually ended up sitting next to me. So it was just such a cool thing that we're sitting next to each other, watching the last couple sets and watching the, Stand and Deliver or whatever. And I'm like, I'm sitting next to the dude that I was listening to on Opie and Anthony 2 weeks ago. This is fucking cool. And we were just having a conversation.
It was probably Opie and Jim around that time. It was probably Opie and Jim, or Jim and Sam, because
it was.
I started. The only reason I know that it wasn't Opie and Anthony is because I started the couple weeks, or it might have been, I'm thinking about it. No, 2015 is when I started. Or no, 14. You're right. He was on fucking O&A, but this is before East End, though. East End started in 15.
Okay, yeah. East End was definitely like 16 or 17.
It was, I think, 16.
It was either Opie and Jim. It must have been Opie and Jim. But anyway, Mark Normand was sitting next to me a week or two after hearing him on the show, and I'm like, this is fucking cool. And one night I ended up in a circular conversation with a bunch of comics, and Chad Daniels.
Yeah, I like Chad.
Daniel performed at Hilarities, then swung by afterwards. And again, I'm sitting like, I can't tell you how many times I've been listening to a comedy station on Sirius XM and see Chad Daniel pop up. I'm like, I had a beer with that guy.
I know.
I bought him a beer.
There's so many like comedians that like I've met through, working one at the Improv when I did, and then doing like this, that you see a lot of when you see somebody like a Shane Torres. Shane Torres came through my first year or so, and we started talking at one of Steve Merz's mics. And then I see him at in Denver during High Plains Comedy Festival, and he's one of the fucking headliners. It's nuts how like the amount of people.
If you know Bill Squire, Mary Santora, Ramon Rivas, that crowd, you are 1 or 2 degrees of separation away from international acts. I mean, Brian Kenny is one of my favorite Cleveland comics. Yes. I think Brian's fucking murderer, just a great comic. And I messaged him once because, and you'll appreciate this as much as anybody, I don't know if he opened for Joe Rogan or did, but he had a picture of him with his arm around Joe Rogan. And I'm like, dude, I'm fucking jealous. I'm fanboying out on you. And he's like, Joe Rogan? Yep.
I know exactly what photo you're talking about. That was the weekend of UFC 203 live from the Quicken Loans.
That's right. He was performing at Quicken Loans, and then
no. This was just he did a stop in and did a guest spot. He did a guest spot that night. That was what the story was, because it was, I think, the Friday before 203 where Stipe Miocic fought Alistair Overeem, which I was at, by the way. Yay.
Of course you were.
Oh, dude, I wouldn't have missed the fucking first UFC in Cleveland. Are you out of your mind?
You drove up to my hometown of Buffalo to go see a UFC fight. So.
That, and I'm still saying to this day, is the great. I've been to Las Vegas, Nevada. I have seen many times Niagara Falls because of hockey tournaments. I've been around, to quote Dusty Rhodes, I have wined and dined with kings and queens, and I've slept in alleys, and I've dined on pork and bean. But the day when we arrived in Buffalo, I'll never forget the place we had was this. It was I think it was the east side of Buffalo.
Okay,
kind of a harder neighborhood. Kind of looked. It looked almost like the ending of East Cleveland. Like when you downtown
East Buffalo competes.
Oh, dude, and that's the thing. Like walking around Buffalo, and you can attest to this because you're from there originally. It's that you feel safe walking in downtown Buffalo.
Yes,
but when it's like Cleveland, once you
start
go
2 blocks,
yeah, dude, we were at a bodega somewhere. We were at this one little bodega that it was a nice, clean one. It was cool, but it was like, oh God, I think it was within walking distance of Key Bank. And because we're talking about UFC 210, everybody. That's Daniel Cormier versus Anthony Rumble Johnson 2. I have video and pictures with everybody who I met on at Ray Hyclak, and you can. Jim, what's your social media, by the way? I didn't ask you for that.
I'm the at Whiskey Congress is the Instagram and Twitter. I'm at Jim Lalka on Twitter, though frankly not very active on Twitter.
Yeah. I was talking about like Instagram or one of those.
I'm more of a I'm old, Ray.
Well, I know.
I'm more of a Facebook guy, and I do some Twitter stuff. I actually have a new Twitter handle. I'll tweet at you.
Yes, we'll have all that in the. We'll have his social media handles in the end credits of the show. But getting back to Buffalo, like I spent a lot of time as a kid going to Amherst.
Sure, Pepsi Center.
Yeah, that's. I actually scored a goal there. I scored a goal in the Pepsi Center in Buffalo when I played for Parma Heights, I think it was. And but it always growing up though, I always liked, and we've talked about this many times, and we can get into. I love talking hockey. I miss it dearly.
Me too.
And also I got a buddy, you'll like this because you're a hockey fan. I have a buddy now who watched last year's Stanley Cup Finals between St. Louis and Boston.
Boston, yeah.
And he lives in Texas. So the Houston area. So they had IHL hockey and AHL hockey for the longest until the Iowa Wild moved. But now he's a hockey fan because of the quarantine. And you'll hate this, and I'm, where my allegiances lie.
I do.
But he's now a Pittsburgh Penguins fan. So one for the good.
Yes, I hate this.
But like, I will say this: I've been to the Summit in Houston, which is now run by that piece of shit Joel Osteen.
Osteen, yeah, there we go.
Yeah, it's that place to me. Like, that's the worst offender of like a dude, like an arena fucking douchebag, like church guy. Like I consider myself in the center, but I'm more like left leaning. I'm definitely an atheist or agnostic. I'm more of like, I don't know. And I don't really give a fuck. So let's see what happens. Roll the dice. But fucking what he did during the hurricane fucking pissed my ass off, because it's like, that place is the home of 2 world championships. And you're taking away a place that had brought joy to so many people in the 90s.
Well, what pissed you off? So what pissed you off, I assume, was the fact that he offered no shelter to people during the hurricane, despite owning a 18,000 seat, what used to be an 18,000 seat arena, or still probably is. So
absolutely no help, and that fucking pissed me off, because I used to go to that place for Houston Aero games. And it's like that place stood empty during a national or a statewide emergency in a state that I'm going to say I still have, because I grew up and started school there. I have massive feelings, especially for the city of Houston. Like, I love the city of Houston. I'm sad that our 2017 fucking championship got marred by some dickheads who just wanted to fucking win. But at the same time, like, help your fucking, you claim to be helping a fellow man, yet you're keeping people out of a fucking place where they can get shelter and food. I bet you have a fucking soup kitchen in there, you fuck.
I'll bet he doesn't, because you don't have a soup kitchen if you intend to help people, and I don't think he does. Yeah, I've had a bit of a religious roller coaster for the last couple of years, but folks who try to take advantage of their quote unquote Christianity while doing nothing resembling the teachings of Jesus. One thing I will say is, you can be anti-religion or anti-organized religion, atheist, whatever. Whether you believe Jesus is the Son of God who came back from the dead, or is
we
a
lost
fictional character, regardless of where you stand on that. What's that?
No, continue.
Regardless of where you stand on the reality or your perception of the reality, the teachings of Jesus as written in the Bible are beautiful. But what people do with them is disgusting.
Yeah, and
Joel Osteen, I agree, he's a poster boy for the disgusting part. So fuck that guy. I'm with you.
And something about me that probably our listeners don't know, and I'm gonna admit this right now. My cousin was, until a couple days, I believe, before New Year's, was a Catholic priest. I mean, he was in it, I believe, 40 years. And people always say privilege, or that kind of thing in our society now. I feel privileged at the idea that I had a cousin who was involved in a religion, because I got to see two sides. I got to see the how everybody treats him, and then I got to see how he treats family, and it's the same. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he treats his parishioners any different, or he treated his parishioners any different, or anything like that. But like, my cousin is a great man, and one of the nicest human beings I've ever met in my life. I know that we probably differ on a lot of things, but he's my family, and he's one of those guys that's always been good to me when it comes to stuff. And to see like a Joel Osteen, or that dickhead in is it Georgia or is it Alabama, they're now going for a warrant out for, they wanted him arrested because he just keeps talking about people. Now he's telling people to give his stimulus checks to you know who I'm talking about, though.
I'm drawing a blank. It's not Pat Robertson.
No, that's a different thing. Here's my thing with Pat Robertson, and you may kind of not understand this, but I love Pat Robertson for a comedic value. Do you know what I'm saying?
I can go along with it. Have you ever seen the video of him leg pressing?
Yes. It's one of the most beautiful things ever.
Oh my God. So to paint a picture, I think he's claiming to be leg pressing 2,000 pounds, which would be a world record. Now he's literally taking the weight down about an inch and then pushing it back up, all while being fawned over by this beautiful 25-ish or so black girl who's like, "Oh, Pat, you're so amazing." And it is comical on so many levels, because the Lord is giving him the ability to press more with his legs than any human ever at age 75 or whatever he was. And he's literally moving the weights like 3 inches. It is hilarious.
Dude, some of the stuff he has said in the past, like children who disobey their elders should be punched in the face, or
I don't remember that.
Yeah, dude. And then there was one where he talked about somebody's wife or something, saying something about himself, or saying about Pat Robertson, and the guy was like, maybe she just deserves to get hit, or whatever it was. God. Yeah, man, like his whole demeanor makes me happy, because like, I'm so glad I grew up with the religious figures that I did, from like my Lutheran preacher that we had, Reverend Barry. Shout out if you're still alive, sir. Keep yourself safe. Or my cousin. Like, I've experienced through in-person stuff more positive, to give me more of like, if you want to, just don't bring it. It's kind of like a straight dude talking about a gay guy. It's like, stay over there, but don't bring any of this towards me. Like, I'm never a religious dude, ever.
Right.
But
anyway, I didn't want to derail the conversation.
Oh,
But
no,
if people
you
want to
didn't.
know, if people want to know what we talk about after comedy shows, this is basically what it's like.
This is the Quarantcast, and actually, that's why I'm thinking about rebranding this after we get out. And if I have a nice little following off of this, but yeah, man, it's weird. And we talked before we started recording, and I wanted you to hold it because I want to talk about this with you as well. It's something I talked about with Joey Gentili on last week's episode. But these fucking protesters, these fucking idiots. That what do you think about these people who are out there in masks, guns, signs, just because they're the kids that couldn't or went to every social thing, and now they're being told they can't do dick.
The best mocking meme that I've seen is the guys who claim to be prepared for 18 months in isolation can't handle. I think that's funny. Now, if you're watching this, you'll see there's a shotgun on the wall behind me.
He's totally different, believe it or not. He doesn't tote that around, luckily.
No, I don't. No, and I'll tell you what. All right, so here's the thing. I would, until recently, I would have called myself a Second Amendment guy and a gun guy. I'm a hunter. I have a concealed carry permit. I carry concealed roughly once every 2 years, and it's typically when if I'm hiking in the middle of nowhere, I want a gun with me because I just don't want to be. Now, assholes who carry around ARs or whatever in the middle of a public street because they're protesting government orders, while at the same time claiming that they're the law and order folks who are I support the blue lives matter. There's so much hypocritical bullshit. If you feel the need to have an AR-15 strapped to you while walking out there, and if there's any gun nuts out there, I want to say that's an M4. Let me just say fuck you.
Yeah.
Okay. It's basically the same. It's a 223, similar to the civilian version of what was the M16 is now the M4. You're just nitpicking, being an asshole if you want to talk about AR doesn't stand for assault rifle. No, it stands for Armalite, but who gives a fuck? These are guns that were designed for military use. Okay, rant over.
Dude. I agree with you on that, for sure.
I'm sure. But if you feel the need to carry around that gun while you're peacefully protesting, you're just being a total douchewagon who wants to flaunt. And you talked about privilege before. That is white privilege at its finest.
Extremely, man.
If a group of black guys walked around legally carrying AR-15s, those same guys would be talking about how much they love the police and these thugs need to be stopped, and they're acting like complete douchebags. Look, like I mentioned earlier in the show that I take a drive through a metro park almost every day. I do a little bit of fishing or whatever, which is technically, and I'm not near anyone when I do it. But I'm out in public, and I'm typically not wearing a mask. But I'm standing on a riverbed, with no one within 100 feet of me, hopefully.
Yeah. Or pissing into the fucking thing, or shitting like a douchebag. Yeah. Oh, you could see that troll all of a sudden, just you're in your wader boots up to your like ankles, and a fucking turd hits you. You're just like, motherfucker.
That sounds like a personal experience that's shaking you up.
Ironically, no. I'm kind of surprised.
Good. No, I mean, I live 5 minutes from the Rocky River Reservation in Cleveland. It's fucking beautiful. And one thing that's I've said it for years, but the quarantine situation has really made it show up, is that I don't take advantage of living next to a beautiful metro park with a great steelhead fishery and a bunch of other things. And it's funny now, there's traffic jams in there on nice days because everyone's out driving through there. I mean, I've had to sit through 3 changes of a light just to get out of the metro park because everyone else is just like, get me out of my fucking house. I'm gonna drive.
The Saturday before Easter was like my big mental breakdown day, because I've been in here, and I've said it a couple times on the podcast, so I've been here since St. Pat's, so I can tell you the exact day I locked down, and it took to Easter for me to lose my shit to the point where I went, I need to get the fuck out of here. And I wound up actually driving from Lake County all the way to the ass end of Ashtabula County on the far east side into Conneaut, coming back, and I went around Steel Yard in downtown Cleveland. So, and it was almost dead at night. Nothing was really out. Nobody was doing anything. But I could definitely see people wanting just to, especially with the metro parks we have in this town.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
amount
they're
of
a
people
great asset.
causing traffic. It must be insane for those park rangers.
But, yeah. And you know, it's such a great thing. One thing I love about Cleveland is it's very reasonably priced to live here, and
Yes.
we've got pretty much everything.
Yeah.
You know, I've lived in Boston, I've lived in DC, I've done work in you know, I did some work in New York City earlier last year. You go to those places, and the cost of, you know, just going out for, you know, an order of wings and a beer is ridiculous. I mean, it's you can get a steak and a couple glasses of wine in this town for that.
Yeah.
The cost of living just for housing is astronomical. And in Cleveland, we've got all these wonderful things. We've got a great food scene. We've got a great beer scene.
Yes. Very much.
And
so.
we've got, you know, we got Lake Erie, which is certainly not gonna, you know, make you forget about an ocean, but it's a great big body of water you can't see the other side of.
Yeah.
When the other day we had a windstorm come through here, and I drove out to the lake, and I was just watching waves crash over break walls, and man, it was something to behold.
When I was out in Conneaut area, there's a road that you can take, and you've probably taken this before, being you're from the eastern part of the country. If you go through Ashtabula area, I think it's 253. It goes right along the shore of Lake Erie, going into from Ashtabula to Ashtabula to Conneaut. And I used to, when I worked for a company that rhymes with Sperminex, I used to be the Ashtabula guy for that, or Ashtabula County guy. So I would always take that view or that road when I was out in Ashtabula, even if it took me an extra 5 minutes. It was still like that area is so beautiful. And also what's nice is on 253, as soon as you hit that road in Ashtabula, first thing you see is a strip club. How can you not love that? Right off the bat. But no, yeah, man, you have to like look at that whole area. Or like I've said a lot of negative things about, you know, Northeast Ohio. I kind of, you know, I got spoiled early in life by having like palm trees and beach and the Gulf of Mexico at like 6 years old. But like you said about expensive, going like Boston or all those, I lived in Denver for a short time. 5 people living in a fucking house was enough to make rent on one place. I think the place that I stayed was like $1,800 a month for one person, and it was a ranch, a 1 floor or 1 story with a basement ranch, literally on the Denver Aurora border. I could walk across the street into Aurora, Colorado, and it was $1,800 in Cleveland, East Cleveland. That would be like $300 and maybe a loaf of bread. You know,
even in you know, the quote unquote more expensive areas of Cleveland. I mean, Lakewood is not expensive, but right next door to it was Rocky River, and that's my side of town. And you know, comparatively, again, having lived in Boston, having worked in Southern California, cost of living is so cheap here. And I've joked about this, but I kind of mean it. I'm about to go political again, but call it climate change, call it global warming, whatever you want to call it. If Cleveland and Buffalo become destination cities because Phoenix and Miami are too fucking hot to deal with, and suddenly everyone wants to be here, welcome.
It's the Tool song. See you down in Arizona Bay, baby. That's the thing, like, too, with Cleveland is, and you're from Buffalo, so you remember like the blizzards that these cities would have. I think it was 75 was the Cleveland.
77 was big in Buffalo.
Yes, I'm trying to think of the era of was it 76? Yeah, my friend off camera just gave me the thing. 1976 is the one that we always hear about with in regards to Cleveland. Because and Buffalo, though, the thing about fucking Buffalo, we'll get back into Buffalo because I like talking about Buffalo.
Oh, me too.
Dude, it's weird. It was the first time Buffalo was the first place I ever saw what I call aggressive snow. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like the places people joke about, like Georgia shutting down. People like where it's like 5 inches of snow in Georgia. There was a point I'll never forget. We were at a hockey tournament at Amherst, and this was like I was in 2004, 2005, and the tournament, the Top Gun tournament, got postponed for a day because of snow. It's the only time I've. No, I'm talking about recently, love, not now. 78. Thank you. She just told me it was 78. But for the blizzard
to postpone something in Buffalo for snow, you're looking at 2 feet typically.
Yeah, it was probably the first floor of the hotel we were staying.
Was it in November?
November, December. Yeah, I want to say
because there's
the
a
Top
famous
Gun tournament.
there's a famous storm. They call it Snowvember because they got a really freak. Well, there was a storm in October once that just crushed the city because all the leaves were still on the trees, and it snowed like 2 feet, and just every tree was still had leaves, and they were just cracking. My cousin called me from downtown. He was actually in Amherst. He said it was the eeriest thing because the streets were dead quiet, and then every once in a while you heard this incredibly loud crack as a tree snapped in half, and it took them days to like put power back because all the power lines got taken out, and it was. But then Snowvember was much more recent. I'm sorry, Snowvember was 2015, and I'm rambling.
I remember that because there was fucking houses. I remember seeing on the news during that because that was during that below freezing time we had, where like basically if you didn't have to go out, you didn't have to, and people were throwing hot buckets of water out, and it was freezing. I remember seeing fucking houses in Buffalo encased in fucking snow. That was nuts. That was a crazy.
That was in the south part of Buffalo. Roughly 7 feet of snow fell in 7 days.
Oh my God.
And I've got tons of stories about that, but if you don't know my family, they won't make sense, and I won't bog up your podcast with those stories. But it was, do part 2. I had to drive from Toronto to Cleveland, right when they reopened the highways.
Oh my God!
And there was I was driving on a completely clean highway. Every exit was blocked because there were still driving bans throughout that area. But there was like a 7-foot wall of snow. It was Game of Thrones shit. It was wild. But you brought up hockey earlier, and I want to say one thing about hockey because you're a Penguins fan, and yes, I hate the Penguins. We've talked about this many, many times. I am a Buffalo Sabres fan, which has not been an easy go for the past 20 years. And with the season being either canceled or probably canceled, I've just got to say that if the Sabres were like in playoff position this year, and the season had been canceled, I would have lost my damn mind. I would have gone fucking bananas. So the fact that we started off good and then sucked, I'm not calling it a saving grace, but I feel so much better knowing that I'm not missing what could be my one chance in the remainder of my life for the Sabres to make a run. So
they'll make a run.
They've got some good players, but
that's a town that's owed, honestly. And that's from a guy who
I get it.
Dude, like I've always been like when it comes to hockey, my teams have always been the Penguins are number one because my mom worked for the Lumberjacks. So then they were the IHL International Hockey League for the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Sure.
Plus my dad, we always joke in our household that, Mario Lemieux was the picture above our mantle, not Jesus. Like there was nobody in the world but number 66. It was nuts. But and we've talked about this many times, am a big Dominik Hasek fan. I've always been my pantheon of goalies. are always number 33, Patty Roy. Will always be my favorite because I just loved Patty Roy as a kid, and it was I always called him Patty Roy because after the Colorado Detroit Red Wings fight, every Detroit sportscaster that was on the radio, because we would get shit from 11:30 WDFN, the fan. The Stoney and Wojo show was the show I would listen to every day at 3:00. They would call him Patty Roy and then make fun of how gay he was and all this shit. But my number 2 goalie of all time is, because of the fact that his balls as a goalie to wear a player's helmet, is fucking Dominic Hasek. One of the toughest, one of the greatest goalies to find an angle to make a save that you go, what? How the fuck did he just do that? I love Dominic Hasek.
In my opinion, he's the greatest ever to play the game. Just on back on Patrick Waugh, when he would come to Buffalo, we would chant Roy, Roy. So
that's awesome. I love it.
But yeah, Hasek, I mean, he made saves where you just like, how did a human being do that? He'd be on one post, a pass would come across, and he'd whip around with his back to the puck, but still manage to get his waffle on the puck. He was so fucking great.
He was one of the best, man. And I think to this day, I still have a rookie card from when he was with the Chicago Blackhawks. And he was still wearing, when he was like, it's his rookie
cage,
card. Yeah. And he was wearing that cage, dude. And anytime that we would watch on like center ice or anything, a fucking Buffalo Sabres game, and he was playing, my ass was right in front because I knew I was going to watch one of the best fucking goalie performances outside of maybe I'm partial, obviously, but like a Patrick Lalime.
Please don't try to put them in the same level of careers.
Well, no. I'm talking about like favorites.
Sure,
these are people that
Lalime and who's the guy that just went to Vegas?
I see Andre Fleury.
Andre Fleury.
I was a big Flower fan, but I wasn't a huge Flower fan.
Okay.
I would still put if you're gonna put people, my top 5 goalies of all time, it would be Patrick Waugh, Dominic Hasek. Number 3 would be Martin Brodeur, without a doubt, just because of the play that he had in New Jersey in his career and the amount of saves he made in big game situations, like the wins against the Stanley Cup. If it wasn't for fucking Martin Brodeur, New Jersey would have nothing, and I kind of wish they didn't. But that's just me. I would have to say. I'm gonna have to look up his goddamn name here.
While you're doing
Penguin.
that,
you can answer this question. Penguins goalie
Tom
Barrasso. Yes, Tommy Barrasso is probably my number 4, and then number 5. And I want him on the Quarantcast because I don't know if he if he'll ever watch this. Former Cleveland Lumberjacks goalie Mike Tamburro is my number 5 hockey goalie of all time, because I got to do a shootout with him, but when the IHL was doing shootouts, and him, Eric Perrin, and Martin St. Louis were all on the ice.
Wow.
Yes. Wow. It was in Warrensville Heights. I couldn't think of the place in the last episode, but Warrensville Heights, my dad was the Zamboni driver. So I got to be on the ice and do a shootout at I think I was 9 years old with Martin St. Louis when he was either a rookie or in his sophomore year of professional hockey, working for Cleveland when they were the Tampa Bay Lightning people, and then Eric Perrin, who ended up being one of the stars for the Atlanta Thrashers down the line.
So I don't know if you know this, Barrasso started his career in Buffalo.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
I've actually got a good Tom Barrasso story. It's really secondhand.
Yes.
So, it's not a great one from his perspective. So my dad did a sabbatical at the University of Pittsburgh for a year. So my dad actually moved to Pittsburgh when towards the end of his life. He was a lot of shit for the last 15 years of his life. He lived in Pittsburgh. And because he did the sabbatical at Pitt, he ended up becoming friends with a guy who was a janitor at the University of Pittsburgh, who also worked as a custodian at Penguins games. And there was a famous incident where Barrasso had a back spasm. I air quote a lot. Back spasm that kept him out of like 2 months of action.
Okay.
And there were rumors that were. So this guy, because we are working in the arena, apparently had some access to some inside sources. So Barrasso was fooling around with another Penguins player's wife, and I don't remember. I want to say it was Pete Taglianetti, but I don't want to be wrong about that.
Oh God,
anyway,
I haven't heard that name for so long.
So Mr. Barrasso was banging one of his teammates' wives. Mrs. Barrasso found out about it and planted a butcher knife between his shoulder blades.
Yeah.
And so the back spasms may have been a butcher knife between the shoulder blades.
That's a very old school Penguin story.
It was one of those never confirmed, never proven. There's a great one of those in Buffalo. So Dominic Hasek had a fallout with Ted Nolan, the then coach of the Sabres.
Yep, I remember this story. I was following it in the hockey news.
Mr. Nolan was allegedly banging Mrs. Hasek.
Yep.
And Dominic took offense. Never proven, but it's one of those, it's the Richard Gere gerbil story. It's like, no one knows it for sure, but if enough people say it, you tend to believe it.
Oh God, that's fucking hilarious. One of my favorite Penguin stories I ever heard, and it's just because I don't like the guy, and a lot of people who listen in Pittsburgh, if you do, thank you. I love you guys, and I'll be back at Arcade and Burning Bridges soon. Hopefully, I want to be there.
Right. I'm dipping
yes,
into the
please. I'll show you pouring. Why not? There it is. Pour the glass, you sexy bitch. You.
A little more for that.
I had the opportunity one time a couple times actually, to play at South Point, Pennsylvania, which used to be where the Pittsburgh Penguins practiced for years. I think it was at least a decade. And I had a coach whose kid was on the same team as me and all this stuff. And he was a big Jaromir Jagr fan. He was Czechoslovakian, so obviously Jaromir Jagr, greatest player in the country. I don't know why I sound like the Aaron Sheik right now. I can't do it good because I can't do a quick like Russian accent. I can only do slow, like hello, Mr. Bond. We expect you to die.
Not bad.
I know it's always been a decent one where I just go, no, Mr. Bond. We expect you
to die.
To suck my dick. What?
But that was that was an outtake, I believe.
No, this will go. Like I said, this is going to fucking.
No. I meant in I meant in Goldfinger. Like,
well,
no,
I mean,
Bond. We expect you to suck dicks. Wait a minute. What? Bring back the laser.
Mr. Connery, please pull down your pants. Thank you.
This took a turn. You were telling your South Point story.
What? Oh, continue. So, we had the opportunity because we were playing in the tournament to be brought out or have a tour of the facility by one of the Penguins trainers, and the one coach was like, "What about Jaromir Jagr?" And he goes, "Yeah, he was kind of a cock stain. I didn't really like him. He was complaining about a lot." I did find out a great story about Rick Tocchet. I believe it was Rick Tocchet or Francis, actually. No, it was Francis, I think.
Ron Francis? Okay.
Ronnie Francis used to form his skates. This is fucking psychotic for any I'm going to pull a Don Cherry. Kids, don't listen to this. Or listen to me when I tell you what's wrong. And we'll get into Don Cherry in a minute because I love Don Cherry. Sure. But kids, don't do this. Ronnie Francis it was either Ronnie Francis or Rick Tocchet used to fucking form their skates around their feet by sticking their fucking skates in buckets of water and like have the skate do like a form around the foot. And he would have to get... What?
Sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead. So literally like a skate that should have been too small for his feet.
No, it was big. It was bigger because general consensus is when you buy hockey skates, and parents that are listening, if you get into hockey, listen to this advice because it's good advice. it's supposed to be a foot size or a shoe size bigger than what you wear. And what happens is usually now the consensus is baking the skate, which means putting it in a pottery kiln and then tying the skate as tight as you humanly possibly can, not to where it cuts off circulation. Obviously, I like that actually on my skates, where I don't feel my feet at all, but I can skate and keep my balance and everything. Tight as tight as you can, and let them cool, because the inside of the boot is now just basically able to be formed around the skate, and that's how you get a tight fit on a skate. Is like if you're an 11 in high school and you buy a 12 or an 11 and a half, that's how you'll be able to form it around your skate or your foot and make a comfortable fit. Is you basically just bake the skates in this big ass fucking pottery kiln, and Bob's your uncle. Some people though have done that part where they'll put their skates into like buckets of warm water so it'll form. Only problem with that is it does cause some hardening. So one of those guys had to get cut out of their skates after every game. That's psychotic.
Wow, that is psychotic.
It's nuts, dude. And what was cool about that weekend though was I got to actually meet God, Mario Lemieux. I got to meet him that one because I got to walk up to his Beamer while my mother was just talking to him like he was nothing. I'm like, what the fuck? You're talking to Jesus and God all rolled up into one. Why?
I mean, as a Penguins fan, I understand why you would feel that way. As a Sabres fan, I fucking hate Mario Lemieux. I can't deny that the guy is among the top, couple of players ever to play the game. But I had a lot of fun once. I was on a business trip in Quebec City.
Okay.
And Mario Lemieux, being French Canadian, is a god there. And the one person they can't stand is Wayne Gretzky, because Wayne Gretzky, who is the greatest player of all time. Sorry.
Yes. Yeah.
But they hate Wayne Gretzky because he's from Ontario, and Lemieux is from Quebec province. And so anyway, we're out to dinner. We've been working with these guys for like 3 or 4 days, French Canadian dudes, and we've gotten to the point where we've gotten friendly enough with one another to bust each other's balls a bit.
Yeah.
So this is actually perfect because I accidentally said Ben Johnson when I meant Don Johnson earlier. If you don't know who Ben Johnson is, he was a sprinter from Canada.
Yep.
And he beat Carl Lewis in a race and was ultimately stripped of his gold medal for testing positive for steroids.
Yep.
And dude was a freak show. I'm just a physical monster and blazing fast. Anyway, so out to dinner at an Italian restaurant in Quebec City with these guys, and they're taking some shots at America. And this is before we knew Lance Armstrong was a cheater. So they took a couple shots at Lance Armstrong, which now I can retrospectively say, okay, I was wrong, but fuck them anyway, the French Canadians. And so they take a couple shots at him, and then I'm pissed. I'm like, I'm defending America. And the next thing they say is, just like Ben Johnson, everyone knows he cheated. Everyone knows Carl Lewis cheated. Just Carl Lewis didn't get caught. And I had enough of this. And so I said, I get it, guys. I mean, like, there are morons out there who think that Mario Lemieux could have carried Wayne Gretzky's jock, and no one would think that. And these guys jump out of their chair, and they want to have an Americans versus Canadians hockey game on the and so my coworker with me said, why'd you say that? Didn't you know it would piss him off? Of course I knew it would piss him off. And so I fucking said it. And I hit that raw nerve, and they wanted to fight right there. And this is at an Italian restaurant, and it was great.
There was one time. There was one time you brought that up, and it made me think of something I said at a comedy show with you. I think it was like right after I had gotten back from Buffalo, and I said something to joke about Buffalo to like dick around.
I wanted to. Oh yeah,
I
wanted to see you. Oh, I was like, you just tell me how great time you fucking had up there, and here you are trashing Buffalo. I know it's comedy. You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, fuck yeah. It's something for a Cleveland people.
That was at East End Bistro. One thing I have said, and I will say this till the day I die, Buffalo and Cleveland have no reason to fight with each other.
No,
we've both been tortured with our sports teams. We're basically the same city. Cleveland's a bit bigger, but They're very similar cities. A lot of pride, a lot of history of terrible sports.
Yeah.
They both get made fun of on the national and international stage.
Yes, we do.
But people typically go to those places and go, wow,
yeah,
this place is nothing like I thought. I mean, I've had people come to Buffalo in July and ask me, like, before they come up, like, is it going to snow? No fucking moron. It doesn't snow in July.
I actually had to warn my friends. I had to warn my friends in April, because if you've never been to Buffalo, anybody watching this, if you've never been to Buffalo in April, it's sort of the beginning of the warm season, but there's still days where it's like 40 degrees, but the sun's out, and you're like, what the fuck am I doing?
Well, what about Cleveland this year? We've had more snow in April than we had in February.
Oh my God, I know, dude. Like, I'm really, I like, I have friends here and all that, but I've never been like married to this town to where it's like all of a sudden the goddamn snow goes through and you're like, I'm good on that, dude. Like, I can't anymore. But
so let me. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No.
So let me ask you this, because I've had a variety of thoughts on like when it's a beautiful day out, I love it, and right now I've got nothing that I'm required to do. I'm a very flexible schedule, and I want beautiful days. I want to go out and I want to be in the Metro Park or do whatever. But sometimes those shitty days, I actually like the shitty days because I feel no guilt about being at home and watching some stupid thing. Like on a beautiful day, if I find myself watching Scream 3 for the 30th time, I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? It's gorgeous out. When it's shitty and cold and rainy, I'm like, I don't feel so bad.
That's the same thing. Like, I always say my favorite days in Cleveland are either rain, sun, or cloud. If there's no like snow or there's no cold rain, I'm happy. If it's, I always say in my act, like, the one thing I love to say is I like my women like I like my weather, above 32. Thank you. For how it should go. Because like right now in Cleveland at the time we're recording this, which is the 29th of April, it was 70 degrees today. I went outside more than I have during the day in the last 3 months because I've been unemployed for the past like 2 years off and on. I went outside more today than I did any other time that I've been back in Cleveland, because it's just been like, I don't want to go out, but when you got this thing, you kind of appreciate it, man.
That's
appreciate that shit.
That's one thing. Having worked, I've worked about 14 months in Orange County, California, where it's beautiful out there. I'm not gonna pretend like, oh, I hate it. No, it's gorgeous. And while I would never want to live in LA, Orange County and San Diego County are phenomenal. But the weather is so consistent, and you give them 2 lousy days in a row, and they drag themselves around. I tried to do this as a bit, like they've been acting like they've been in a Russian gulag for 20 years when they've had to stay at home for 2 days.
I know
that joke doesn't work because no one knows what a fucking gulag is. But that's actually the only thing that got me to laugh. Is the word gulag is funny whether you know what it is or not.
Oh fuck yeah! And then I'll share something with you off thing, but one of my favorite things is biographics, and they talk about like some of the gulags that Russia had and how crazy some of them fucking prisons were, dude. It's nuts.
But Southern California, like 2 days of overcast weather, and they're moping around. In Cleveland, my favorite day of the year in Cleveland and in Buffalo, obviously under non-quarantine circumstances, is the first really nice day of spring. Go downtown Buffalo, downtown Cleveland, where every girl is putting on the sundress they bought on discount in January, strutting that thing that they couldn't wait to shave their legs and look good and walk around and have a drink for. And that is my favorite day in Buffalo and Cleveland. When we get good weather, we appreciate it and we enjoy it.
Dude, it's wonderful. And like my proclivities for women are definitely sundress weather, definitely not bikini weather. But sundress is all fucking, anytime you first get that first wave, no pun intended on Quarantcast, but first wave of sundresses out there, and it's a chick with like Bud Light in her hand and a cigarette. That's like my Midwest dream. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I
love
get
it.
I'm not a cigarette guy, but
Yeah,
or,
I'm
or a
trying
Bud Light
not
guy.
to be. They've been watching me hit my vape for a little while here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know where you're at. I'll go for 3 hours if you want, but I
I
don't know
was
what
about
you.
to say we're gonna wrap this up now, but I have 3 questions that I
Okay.
always ask my guests. What is a movie that you think nobody is talking about that you've binge watched during the quarantine? What's one that you've done so far?
A movie or a series that I've binge watched?
Movie or series, up to you, whatever you want. I'm just, throwing
The
stuff
one
out
that
for people to watch.
the one that I just watched, I do think a lot of people are watching it now. That was Waco on Netflix.
Oh my God. We're actually for Quarantcast. I'm going to have one of my editors on because I'm having him watch it, but I'll have you on for a Waco roundtable for the Quarantcast.
I'd love that.
Sure.
I would love that. I was
It's
21 when that happened.
Yeah.
Actually, let me throw one other one out there that I did also watch and that is not getting as much hype and should. There's it was done by BBC. It's called Watership Down. It's based on a novel by Richard Adams.
Okay.
It's about rabbits, but it's about social political things. It's basically the fight for freedom and socialism versus religious authoritarianism. I think I got that right.
Authoritarianism, sure.
I've been drinking. There we go. Holy shit, I butchered that. But Watership Down, it's on Netflix now. It's 4 parts, I believe, animated about 40 minutes an episode, and it's based on a book that is a book I've loved since my teenage years. So Watership Down is my untapped gem. Go to that.
Waco, though, like what I just real quick about Waco is like my family and I moved. I want to say it was a couple months after Waco. We went in '94 to Houston. So like, but like the fact that like the whole story, and I love the way it's presented. It's so good. It's a wonderful thing to watch if you ever watch Waco, and then watch the ones that my guests as well, people that watch this. My next question 2.
Watership Down.
Watership Down. That's it. Again, we've been drinking, so this is going to be a fun podcast, folks. Number 2, have you seen Tiger King, and did Carol Baskin do it?
Yes and yes. So I've seen it. What my favorite part of Tiger King was actually the additional bonus episode with Joel McHale interviewing all the people from that, because he asked all of them, "Do you think Carol Baskin killed her husband?" And they're like, "Yeah." I mean, it's like asking, "Do you think McDonald's sells Big Macs?" There was no hesitation, no second thought. Like, yeah. And for dudes to mysteriously die and never to mysteriously disappear with like no trace of anything, come the fuck on.
Exactly.
One more thing, I'll be real quick about that.
Feel free.
Her response to I couldn't have fit his hand in that meat grinder. Like, that's your defense? Not I would never murder my fucking husband. Yeah. So I found her to be very, I'm going to be generous and say quirky in her answers.
Quirky?
And yes, I believe she had him killed. I'm being generous. I told you. But I don't know if she did the dirty work. I would suspect she did not. It wouldn't shock me. I'm not saying she did or didn't. I'm saying she was involved. I would put big money on that and give odds.
Oh yeah. And also, did you see the meme going around of people sending a picture of her boyfriend, and then all of a sudden you see a picture of Jeff Lowe together?
I have seen that. That's creepy.
That
is really creepy. When someone said that to me, who said that to me? I forget. And I'm like, come on, there's no way that. And then you see him like, I can't say that that's not him. And in this world, stuff is easy to manipulate. I'm not banking on that. But my first thought was, it would have come out. Well, not if they didn't want it to. If they're both involved in a fucking murder, neither of them are going to go, yeah, that was me. Whoopsie.
It's her anger in general too, his personality kind of like fits with the abusive boyfriend.
Doc Antle, right?
Doc. Well, I love Doc. Like I think.
Oh no, sorry, Jeff Lowe. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
Jeff Lowe
was. I mean, yeah,
dude.
Jeff Lowe.
I'll ask you one more question. What was your reaction to when Doc's shirt got dirty from the chain? He mentioned it and goes, "I'm dirty, or my shirt's dirty because nobody cleaned the chain." And then all of a sudden, that face of just like, I've been embarrassed on television.
I honestly, I didn't react strongly to that.
Dude, if you go back and watch
I probably will.
that part where he's just like, somebody didn't clean the chain. He went from being happy to, I am going to beat one of my submissives tonight worse than she's ever been beaten and tell her why. Like, it was disturbing.
I will look for that. All right. So there's my Carol Baskin, though. Yes, I watched it. And yes, I think she killed her husband.
And finally, Jim Lalka, question 3.
Sir.
After the coronavirus is over, what are you gonna do? Where are you gonna go? What are you gonna drink? You're gonna go to a bar, a comedy show? What are you gonna do?
Honest to God, I haven't thought about that as much because I need to get back into my business. But assuming that I have some time off, I'm going to fucking Vegas. I have not been to Vegas in a long time. So this whole quarantine situation, it's been so funny how many times my brain has gone to, well, during this downtime, I'm going to make an effort and go to the gym more. Well, can't do that. No. Well, I'm going to, what my buddy, so Steve, my co-host on Whiskey Congress, called me right after this got going and said, hey, man, I'm going to be in your neighborhood for work. You want to meet for lunch? And then he goes, and shit, we can't do that. It's not even like we can't get out and get a beer. We couldn't go to fucking McDonald's.
No.
So I look forward to being able to sit in public with friends. I can't wait to go to comedy shows again. Can't wait to go back to East End and hang out with that crowd. But when I get some time, I'm going to go to Vegas and play poker because I have not played poker in a long time and I really miss it.
I may bring you on a project if we do something on that. If you're missing poker. We'll talk about that after the camera goes or after the camera cuts. But no, yeah, man, I love all of it. I love spending time with you today, my friend. Give them all of your social medias, every single one of them. We're going to put it in the credits at the end of the show, but I want to get all of those before we go to me in a weird position somewhere off screen. And a video to give all of these lovely human beings a good night from the lovely compound, but give them all your social medias.
So social media, I'm at Jim Lalka on Twitter, but please go to at Whiskey Congress on Twitter, which is our Twitter site. My co-host Steve runs that more than I do, but I do have a spin-off that you'll find there. You can email me, jim@whiskeycongress.com, if you want to talk about my political stances or whatever. And I thank you very much for having me, Ray. It's great to see you, brother.
Yeah, dude.
I miss you. So
we'll continue this off air a little bit more with the drinking and bullshit. But I wanted to have you on the Quarantcast because I've known you for a while, and I like hanging out with you at comedy shows and being with you. We've had some fun ass fucking nights where we've made each other laugh.
Absolutely, brother. And I will say, you say you made the comment that I ended up getting more drunk than you. I can't argue with that. I cannot. That's not putting you in choir boy status, but like you said, I didn't need to drive home, and there have been several nights. Were you there the night that I went total I love everybody mode?
Yeah, well, what night though? Because there's been some nights where you've gone very.
No, there was one that was bad. I'd been on the road working for like 8 months.
Yes, I remember that night.
Back, and I hugged Riley Nesbitt like 7 times. It was, but I mean this in a positive way though. It was my, I had been gone I had not seen that crowd in several months, and I was just so happy to be around everybody. And I was not driving, and I had probably had 6 shots and 6 tall IPAs at East End, so I was pretty fucking hammered.
Hey man, again,
one comic, I'll name her after the show, but she let me know that she did not appreciate the unwanted hug.
Well, they'll know by this video. Trust me.
We talked it out. We're good now. But
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, you've always been like one of the best parts about like Cleveland comedy, for me at least, is hanging out with you, because I'm a weird shut in myself, and it's always nice to see faces I like and everything. Again, Jim Lalka, go check out Whiskey Congress. Make sure you give them a subscribe on this. I'm going to kick it over to myself here in a second, but I'm going to give my social medias right off of this. At Ray Hyclak, Hyclak, and it's across the board. Side Angle Network on YouTube, and also on Anchor FM and Spotify, and wherever you get your audio podcasts. You can get a version of this podcast on those things in audio form. So we'll be able to do those. And Mr. Lalka, it was a pleasure. Thank you very much. And I'm going to kick it over to the sexy boy, Ray Hyclak, to tell you guys about more coming up next week. I have some guests coming up, and we will definitely be talking more. And like I said, Jim, I'll have you over for the Waco Roundtable, because I have somebody else along with me.
I appreciate that. Thanks again for having me, brother. Love you. Hope to see you soon.
For sure. Stay safe, guys. And I'm going to now throw it to Ray Hyclak. Thank you, guys. Have a great day. Thank you guys for watching. I really love talking with Jim Lalka today on the Quarantcast. And to be honest, he's one of my favorite people in the Cleveland comedy scene. And I can't wait to see him after all of this is over. You can give me a subscribe at the bottom. Make sure to turn notifications on so you can see everything that I am uploading. We're going to be doing stuff with the Side Angle Network coming up soon, which is awesome. But once again, thank you guys for watching. Remember to give this video a like, share, and also a subscribe with the notifications turned on, because that's how you'll know when we do stuff. I'm Ray Hyclak for the Quarantcast. Thank you guys very much, and we look forward to entertaining you more.